Stroomop is a South African Women's Month movie about an all-female support group who decide to go on a river rafting adventure as a kind of group therapy. When their raft smashes into a rock, they lose it, as well as their guide. Now they have to survive the desolate landscape and overcome their issues if they ever want to get out alive.
Wie gaan ons help?
Ons moet onsself help. Hierdie is mos 'n selfhelpgroep.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to be upfront that I have a slight conflict of interest with this movie. I saw a name in the credits that I recognized. The name of somebody who taught me in my very first year at film school, taught me the foundations of basically everything that I've learned about film and TV. So this is somebody that I greatly admire. This is like a mentor to me. So it's kind of awkward. It's impossible to say which of the ideas are his ideas, but that doesn't matter because I'm going to try and treat this review as though I'd never seen his name in the credits and still try my best to be as fair and as honest in this review as possible. I'm going to try to be harsh and loving at the same time because, you know, this is also just a product of my own country, you know, the film industry that's around me. Oh Jesus, my zip is open. The good stuff. For the most part, the characters feel pretty well defined and distinguished from one another. They each have their own individual issues and their own unique coping mechanisms. But probably the best thing about the movie is the way that they interact with each other, the group dynamics at play. I felt this was the most noticeable in one scene specifically. It's their first night out on the river and they're all sitting around this campfire and they're supposed to have a little sharing session. And one character, Lana, absolutely refuses to share. This just tugs a little bit at some of the threads tying the group together, and they all just turn on each other and they have this big argument. That scene is actually a pretty huge failure in terms of just the basic shooting of it, the most basic logic of who's where and what can they see. It doesn't feel too contrived, it feels natural. The scene actually ends on a suicidal divorcee named Vivian making a move that felt kind of unexpected. This little moment was very illuminating. It told you a lot about this character and sort of her basic inner workings, you know? How she copes with difficulty. If the filmmakers had decided to stick with that kind of thing, to reveal characters to us in these little interactions all over the place, I think that this movie would have been a lot better than it is. But that's not what they did. Instead, the way that the movie tries to give you insight into these characters ends up being by far the worst thing about the movie. The bad stuff. Instead of revealing the characters through these insightful little moments, the movie decides to give each of the 5 characters their own comprehensive backstory through these many flashbacks. I'm talking about a lot of flashbacks. So many flashbacks. I'm sure that some of you watching are thinking, you know, it doesn't sound inherently bad. So I'm gonna try my best to explain the basic structure of this movie to try to convey to you how awful all of these flashbacks are. So the movie starts off with Lana. She's actually the protagonist of the movie, the main character. She's a surgeon and she's struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder. Her hands start to shake. She can't do surgery anymore. So obviously the hospital forces her into this support group against her will. And right when you're starting to get interested in this character and the story, the camera turns around to this random person that you've never seen before, and suddenly they get a flashback. The camera goes to the next person, and they also get a flashback. Before you even know who these characters are, or whether or not they're important to the story, you get like 4 different flashbacks. All of the momentum that we were writing, all of the momentum of the main plot, is just interrupted again and again and again and again. All these interruptions. And they are constant, and it's infuriating. So it's like you cut from one feeling to a radically different feeling, and then you come back and you're supposed to settle back into the emotion that you were a couple of seconds ago. So as an example, there's a scene near the beginning of the movie, right as they're about to start their big river adventure. The entire group is together, and here we go. Here starts the story.
Is julle reg vir hierdie avontuur?
Wat is die ergste wat kan gebeur?
But before we could start the actual river raft, they give you this long nighttime sequence as they're driving this minibus of just looking at this person's flashback, looking at this person's flashback. So you get one that's like a sweet little couples moment, and you get one that's like this suicidal thing. And then you get another one where it's like a death of a loved one. You can see that these flashbacks are supposed to be important. They're supposed to be like emotional gut punches, but the movie just flies right over all of them so fast that you don't get any time to actually connect with any of it. It's like looking at this really big, really bad photo collage, but you only get like a second to look at the whole collage. So none of it matters. The movie tries to maintain this overall air of so profound, almost like a Terrence Malick movie. And some of the transitions and some of the cutting is kind of artsy. You can see they're going for that artsy kind of vibe. The whole point of this movie is to be an empowering message to all the women out there. The movie has a smorgasbord of women's issues. You get your body issues, you get your high-powered women in the workplace, you get family drama, mother-daughter dynamics, all that stuff. This movie doesn't manage to be any more compelling or emotional or illuminating than just reading articles about this stuff from like Huffington Post or something. Maybe that's going a little too far. It does manage to actually make these things feel personal in some places, and it does have a couple of emotional kicks here and there where you can connect to some of these things in a way that you might not have connected before. But like overall, the movie just has this air of like a drunk guy at a party who like clinks his glass and he wants to make a toast, and to all the ladies in the audience. Everybody, this is a toast. Let's get serious. To all the women out there. Man, you put up with so much. Women, you're survivors. Each and every one of you. And we love you. Let's hear it for the women. I don't think anyone will really disagree with the themes of this movie. Unless you're very, very right-leaning, you might feel it's a little bit propagandist. But I think most people will find that the themes are kind of weak. They may be well-intentioned, they're just kind of clammy. It's cheesy, you know? So this movie shoots for profound. It misses completely, but it doesn't quite end up being a total turd. It lands just shy of total turd town. It ends up somewhere more over here in the barrens of vaguely bad and uninteresting. I think some people will still get something out of watching this movie. For me, it was just awful. Let me know in the comments, any of you who think I was too harsh, if you think I wasn't harsh enough.